Hi guys, so I did a poll on my Twitter and I wanted to know what topic you guys wanted to hear me talk about, and the winner was immigration. So it seems very logical to me, at least my stance on immigration. My father is an immigrant, he's from Trinidad and Tobago. I've talked to so many other immigrants about the current climate and their thoughts and opinions on everything as well, and I've come to some very interesting conclusions, which I wanted to share with you guys because I think it helps to broaden the perspective and to get opinions from people who are actually immigrants here in this country to know what they think about everything in terms of immigration in general. So I asked my dad, who's actually my stepdad, but he's still my father, of course. Anyways, I asked him what his thoughts were on illegal immigration, and he said that he did not agree with it. He said that he spent so much time, spent a lot of money, put a lot of hard work and effort into coming into this country the legal way, and he says that it kind of feels like an insult to those who actually did put in the work to come here the legal way, when there are so many people just walking up in here and demanding rights as if they were citizens. And I definitely do understand that sentiment, because when it takes years to get your citizenship, that's a long time. I've asked other immigrants what their stances are, and they agree with my stepdad. They agree that they're proud to be here. They love America. They came here the legal way, and it took a lot of hard work. It took a lot of resources, a lot of money, and they still did it. They still made an honest life. They put in that effort, and I really do applaud them. So if you are also an immigrant as well, please drop your story and your thoughts, because I'd love to hear your perspective. One thing that's very ironic to me is that the American dream is built on working hard, chasing after your goals, and putting in that work to achieve the life that you want to live. That is very much the foundation of what it means to be an American, and that simple fact is kind of lost with illegal immigrants, just because some of them tend to think that it's a right to be here when it's not a right, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be an American. I'm very grateful and glad to be born here as an American citizen, just born and raised here my whole entire life. But when I look at people who try to make an honest life here without even doing it the honest way, it's kind of contradictory. You can't demand to be treated like a citizen, have the same rights as a citizen, when you don't want to put in the same work to become a citizen that us citizens are putting in the work to do. We put in the work to be here, to live here, to make an honest living here. And another fact that I wanted to bring up as well is I understand that it can be very triggering when it comes to ICE agents and being deported and having that trauma on your family. Families being broken up, separated, children being separated from their mothers. I get it. I'm not saying that's great. That's very awful, and I'm very, it makes me sad to hear things like that. But it's also the responsibility on the family or the adult in that situation to understand and weigh those pros and cons and the risks when it comes to that type of consequence. Every action has a consequence. I've said it before, and I definitely don't think the consequence should be death. I just want to be clear about that. But when it comes to actually breaking the law, you can't expect there to not be a consequence to match the law that was broken. So if you come to this country illegally, the consequence for that is you get sent back to where you came from. And another interesting point that I've actually, thought about as well is that for me personally, I love this country. I love being an American citizen. I love being here in the United States. But there are some things that I personally just don't like, which is, it's gonna sound very trivial to some, but I don't like rain. I live in a state where it rains all the time. It rains almost every single day. Not really, but it seems like it rains almost every single day. This past summer, it was mostly raining. Half the summer was rain. And people here love it. They're like, oh my God, great, our crops are getting water. But I'm like, I don't care. So I'm actually looking into a very dry Western place where I can live, where there's hardly any rain, because I just would rather not deal with it. And also considering the cost of living in some of these places, I have settled on Mexico because it's very dry, it's West Coast, but there's also the tropical aspect as well. And that's another thing that I really wanted. I love the beach. I love being outside, going on hikes, nature trails, and just the Pacific Ocean doesn't do it for me. It's a little bit too cold and dark, but Mexico has gorgeous beaches, and I'm talking about the western part of Mexico, not like central or the eastern side of things, or where Cozumel is. So this is Lower California, Baja California Sur, and I love that area. But the thing is that I have to get my Mexican citizenship there, and I had to look into it. It's it's a long process. You have to make a certain amount of money. You have to pass this, basic test. You have to, know how to speak Spanish. And I think those are the things that really add to a good quality of life. I couldn't imagine just waltzing up in Mexico and demanding to stay there just because I want to live there and I feel like I'm entitled to live there. That's just not how it works. And like, God forbid I get deported once I do that. I wouldn't want to end up back in this state, that's for sure, because it's just all that hard work gets wasted thrown out the window. All my resources, all my home, my friends, my family, it's just pointless. And so that's why I think it's really important. If you want to come to the country, it's going to take a bit of work. And a lot of conservatives and Republicans will say like, oh, if you want to be an American citizen, you should at least know basic English. I agree with that, and I also think that knowing multiple languages doesn't hurt. It definitely is great to be multilingual. I majored in linguistics, so I actually happen to know a lot of different languages. I speak about 12 different languages. Obviously, my main language is English, second was Spanish, third was French, then Chinese, okay? So it's not too difficult to maintain your culture and your language while also assimilating and adjusting and building a community with those who don't share the same cultures or the same values. And I think that's what makes America so great, because we are a melting pot of different religions, cultures, people. No matter who you are, where you come from, you're welcome here. But know that we do have our American culture, which is of course speaking English. Like that shouldn't be a surprise to people. Americans speak English here. We have different backgrounds, tons of different backgrounds, and that's what we kind of celebrate, and we encourage those to be proud in their cultures and where they came from, but also recognizing that once you're here in America, it doesn't quite matter as much because we're all American citizens. So I'm Afro-Latina Dominican. I have my Dominican flag over there. You can kind of see it there. But I always will say I'm proud to be American. Like I honor my Dominican heritage, of course, but I was born and raised here, so I'm just regular Black American who happens to have Dominican ancestry. I've always wanted to go to Australia. If I wanted to go to Australia right now, I could definitely do it, but I could not overstay my visa. And I don't quite understand why no other country gets the same amount of flack that America gets here for immigration laws, because there's no country that just widely accepts people coming into their borders. If I went to Australia, right? Same example. They would kick me out if I overstayed my visa. And they have very, very strict rules and regulations when it comes to people immigrating to the country in Australia. You literally, I would try to mess around and find out, because it's kind of interesting. I actually know a guy who was deported from a country from overstaying his visa. He laughs about it because he thinks it's funny, but I don't think it should be taken that seriously in terms of like, oh, that's horrible, because that's just a regular consequence of that action. If you are in a country illegally and they find out, they will send you back to where you came from. That's just a common cause and effect. It's simple logic here. It's really not too hard. And to that point though, on immigration, I definitely do think that there are some changes that should be made in terms of the process towards becoming an American citizen. I can't speak to other countries because I haven't quite looked into it. I've looked into Mexico, and it's difficult, but it's not impossible. I'm definitely going to do it, right? But I've learned about the immigration here in the United States and how unrealistic it can be for some people to fully commit and actually go through that process. So recognizing that, I do think that there could be some systems set in place to actually help people. I mean, if you're seeking asylum and you're coming from a very bad place, we have a process for that. You just want to live here and make an honest, good life, there's a process for that. It may be and if there are people who are willing to just teach others on that process and how it works, I think that could be very helpful. Now, I don't know if that would be our responsibility as United States citizens, or if it'd be like whatever country they come from, they should have that resource. But either way, there definitely does have to be some reform when it comes to immigration, because if we can regulate it and actually accept those who really genuinely do need the help and want to make an honest living here, I'm all for that. Because come to the United States. It's a very good place to live in, but it has to be through the legal way. And thank God we don't have limit in terms of how many people we can take. The issue with that though is that if it's just undocumented, that's a no-go. We can't adjust to that many people who are undocumented. Of course, you don't necessarily know the rules and what it means to be an American. Those things get lost. And also the resources that are being spread out. A lot of illegal immigrants can get resources that many Americans just don't have or are struggling to get. And that's why a lot of conservatives will say we need to focus on uplifting and helping our own country over those who aren't even documented and here legally. The reason why is because there's so many veterans who need help and support. There's homeless. Our homeless population is through the roof. It's ridiculous. I mean, try going to North California. You'll see what I'm talking about, even in New York City as well. Also, our education. We have a lot of cities that are overpopulated here. The housing crisis is a hot mess. There's so many people who are looking for a good home, a place to live, but they can't. It's hard, whether it's finances, or lack of resources, or just the area that you live in. It's very hard for everyday Americans. And so just to, back to my stepdad's point, how he feels like sometimes it's like a kick in the face to those who are actually here the legal way, because it's true. I mean, we fight so hard to get here and the work that we do, and then others who don't necessarily follow the rules, they end up taking the resources that could be given to an American who actually worked hard and is trying to make an honest living as well, the legal way. And so that's honestly my stance on illegal immigration. Unfortunately, I am very much against it. I think we do need a tighter border for the reasons that I mentioned in this video. It only benefits Americans to have a tighter border. It only benefits other people as well to come in the legal way. And there's nothing wrong with being a legal citizen. I think you have so many more privileges that you get to unlock when you come here the legal way. And I just couldn't fathom going to a country and just demanding that I have the same rights as their citizens there and expecting that. The entitlement is very apparent. And I think if people just take a step back and logically think through this, it becomes very clear that there's a big need for border control and for those who are not here the legal way to be sent back to where they came from so that they can come here the legal way, and that there's nothing wrong with it. And it may be traumatic, of course, I'm not denying that, but that is a result of an action that somebody took. And we should definitely shift the blame. Instead of on America, it should be on the individual who chose to take that risk knowing all the consequences. I think it's important to have self-accountability and responsibility over your actions and choices, because every action does have a consequence. And you can't just blame America just because you don't like the fact that you can't just do what you want. That's not how America works, and that's not what made America great. That's not what makes America great. Anyways, the reason why America is so great is because we have these rules and that we enforce them. And without those rules, it would be chaos. As we can see, it has been chaos for some time now, and it's getting better, of course. But yeah, that's my stance on legal immigration and immigration in general. Okay, bye guys. I'll make another video soon on whatever topic. Just let me know. Let me know what other topics you want me to talk about. I love the fact that we can have these types of conversations. So drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm open to all opinions. And regardless of where you stand, please no hate. I don't mean to offend anybody. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is just me logically rationalizing everything with all that I know, all that I've experienced, people that I've asked as well, because we are talking about immigration and immigrants. And we need to actually listen to those who are immigrants and American citizens, because your opinions also matter. And I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad everyone's here. Much love. Sending you all virtual love, and may God bless.